Welcome to the Franchise Woman Podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged. I'm Rebecca Monet, CEO and Chief Scientist at Zorkel Profiles. I'm here with my co-host, community advocate, speaker, author, and entrepreneur, Tracy Kawa. Tracy, we have a very special guest today, someone I'm so excited that could join us, Esther Cromwell. Esther is the founder and CEO of Avendelle Assisted Living, a leading residential assisted living franchise that provides quality and personalized care. Esther founded Avendelle Assisted Living in 2005 after realizing her passion for senior care through helping an elderly, widowed neighbor. She began researching what goes into senior care facilities and realized more could be done. With that, a spark was ignited, and Esther had found her calling in life. Esther, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I am so excited to be here, and thank you for the invite. Yeah.
We're going to jump right in, girl.
Esther, I'm excited to hear about your life, your work, your passions. But I'd like to really start by hearing about your earlier years. I understand that you were born in Africa, you moved to New York, you landed in North Carolina. How did all that come about?
Sure. So I was born in Africa and moved to New York as a teenager. Attended high school, some college over there, and then I moved to Maryland and was there working, going to school, trying to figure out life. Met my then boyfriend, now husband, over in Maryland, and he was a chef at a country club, and he got transferred to North Carolina, and asked if I wanted to come. And since I had nothing else to do with my life, I moved to North Carolina. So here we go.
And he was a good cook.
He is an excellent cook. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, oh my gosh. I'm just thinking about that. I wish I had a husband like that. So this going from Africa to New York, tell me about that transition, Esther. Culturally, relationally, school. Tell me about all of that.
Sure. Yeah. So I started high school in New York. I came from a Catholic boarding school in Sierra Leone, West Africa, to a public school in New York City. And you can only imagine how scary that was. It's like going from everything is all quiet to go into just pure chaos. And it was crazy. I didn't know what to do. So I would, back home when the teacher walked in, we all had to stand up and greet the teacher. And then the teacher would say, "You may now sit down." And we sat down. And going to a public school, you have the teacher walk in, and I'm just waiting to see what other people are doing because I didn't know what to do. 5 minutes go by, everyone's talking and ignoring the teacher. That was just, yeah, that was such a shock for me. It was a culture shock for me. And another thing that was another culture shock for me was we were driving through Harlem in New York, and there were two guys like hovering over the heat, on the street. And I asked, and I was like, wait a second, what are they doing? And, this person said, well, they are homeless. And I, for the life of me, could not imagine. And I distinctively remembered saying, but this is America. So it was like you have this really wonderful feeling when you're back home. You think, oh, America, the streets are paved with gold and all that stuff. And and you come in here and you see a homeless person. So it's like breaking the dream that I had, breaking the view that I had of America, because back home, even if you don't have a job and you don't have a home, there could be your auntie, your uncle, your neighbor, your whomever that would just have you come in. But that was shocking to me. So yeah.
That's amazing. So you came here to America, kind of disillusioned a little bit. The schools, there's chaos. The students aren't listening to the teachers. There's homeless people, but yet still, despite everything, you were still able to create your opportunities here and opportunities for other people. So how did you create that? How did you step into franchising? How did you create your success?
Oh, okay. Well, I think in order to answer that question, we have to go back to where I was and what started all of this, and how it impacted who I am today.
Yeah.
And when we moved to Maryland, and I have my husband, a boyfriend back then. We lived in our apartment. But before then, it was everyone around me pretty much, we didn't pay our bills. We didn't do things. You don't pay your light bill until, you get the disconnection notice, and then you call for, payment plan, even though you're not going to be able to pay it. You don't pay your rent on time and all of that stuff. And that was the way of life for me, right? That was the way of life for me. And I met Doug, and Doug, boyfriend, husband, met Doug, and I remembered the first month we moved in together, the electricity bill came in, and, he paid it like the next day, not even the due date, but the next day. And I thought there was something really wrong with this man. Like this, he was, who does that? Like, I would walk around looking very cute, but I was broke because I was not responsible. I often say, like, I was the cutest broke person out there, but he paid it. And I remember calling up my sister, and I'm like, he paid the bill like the next day. There must be something wrong with him. What is wrong with this man? But because I didn't know any better. I mean, and we stayed together. And as we continued to live together, I realized, oh, wow, there is another way of living. You don't have to live paycheck to paycheck. You can budget your money. You can save your money. You can do all of that stuff. And so with that said, I wanted to be a better person, because really, and I'm tearing up thinking about this, because with all that I have done right now, and all the potential that I had, would I have been able to recognize that potential or have it be realized if I did not have a Doug? You know what I mean? Like, if I didn't have that person that to say, hey, there's another side of life that made me wanted to be a better person. And so, it just makes me wonder how many people are out there that could use their own dogs, But we moved to North Carolina because he got transferred. He was a chef and got transferred, and his hours were really crazy. And I had a job, and our next door neighbor, who had been married for, I guess, 40, 50 years or so, had lost her husband. And I would stop by her apartment just to make sure she was okay, doing things for her, cleaning up her house and doing all the good stuff. And I just realized as I was doing stuff for her that it really fueled my soul. And I felt like this was what I was meant to do, to be of service for other people, a lot of people would say to me, oh, wow, you did such a wonderful thing for her and all of that stuff. And which is fine. Yeah, that's true. But I felt like I got so much out of it than she did. And it is just, it was just an amazing time. She started forgetting who I was. And I was in my 20s. I didn't know what happened to people when they get older. I didn't know where they went. I was not exposed to that. And so I just started doing research and trying to figure out, hey, what's out there for those people.
Yeah.
So that's how it all started.
Oh my goodness, I want to unpack this because this is really, I'm going two different directions here.
Sure.
Your story of your meeting your husband and him being kind of the yin and the yang to you.
Sure.
So you were talking about the way you lived your life was a life
Sure.
where you express through your beauty and your clothing and those things, but the financial thing was not top of mind for you at all.
Sure.
Do you think that is American culture? Was that New York? Was it Africa? Was it a lack of education around the financials? Because that's not really something we learn in high school. Talk a little bit more about that. And then I want to dig a little bit more into this relationship and how it's changed you more specifically. But go back for me. Do you think this is a cultural thing?
I think it's not an African thing. I think it's an American thing.
I agree.
Right?
I agree.
I think it's an American thing. We talk about go to school, go to college, get great degrees, get a job. But what happens after you get that job, right? We don't talk about that. They don't teach that in school. And so people go through life. And I remembered speaking to a nurse maybe a couple of months ago, and he said, oh yeah, I rented not a U-Haul, rent a car or whatever. And, I returned it and they charged me extra and I just refused to pay it. What do you mean you refuse to pay it? Yeah, he's like, yeah, they can charge whatever. And I said, well, do you know that it's going to go on your credit? Do you know that it's going to affect you? And do you know what that looks like? And he's like, yeah, but and I had to literally sit down and break it down for him and say, you know what, you can pay it and then fight the battle later, but don't mess up your credit. Don't mess it up. But that just shows that, even a nurse that went to nursing school, has all the education, has that mentality. And, so I think it's just an American thing that we don't teach our children, and we're not taught at school, we're not taught at home. And if you don't know how to manage your own finances, how are you going to teach your children how to manage their own finances?
I tend to agree with you completely, Esther. I'm born and raised in Switzerland, and I came to the U.S. in my teens also.
Mm-hmm.
I was going into grade 10. And I do think it's an American thing that we want to be beautiful and we want to wear cute clothes and we want to drive the cool car and live in the right zip code and all of those things. But we're really not financial intelligence, right? And Doug had it.
Yes.
And it was a big impact to you. What other things in this marriage have contributed to your mindset and to the way you've grown your business?
Yeah. So Doug and I, we are as different as night and day, which is, yeah, we are. He likes pasta, I like rice, we are very different. But I think for us, the core thing, wherein the core values that we have, wherein I know at the end of the day, no matter what, good, bad, or ugly, that man has my back. and he knows the same thing. And no matter what, I have his back. I think that has really provided the foundation of our relationship to where anything is possible if we just put our heads together. And the fact that we're so different really works well for what we do because, I'm the operational person. I'm the one that goes out and does the tours and meets with people and all that stuff. And he's on the back end that kind of holds the business together. So
That's fascinating because I think here we're trained like to find someone and then to a certain degree change that person to be more like us. When in reality, it sounds like you were very different, but are you saying that because your core values were similar, then your attributes or your skills were able to be different and for it to work out?
Mm-hmm.
I think though that because we met when we were so young, we grew up together and we sort of developed it together. So there, it's like that. You develop it together. We developed ourselves together and kind of formed our core values together. But I also just think that, in America, differences are, viewed as, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad. But I think, there's so much advantage in everybody just being different and just learning from those differences. And, and Doug's an awesome dude. I mean, really, truly, he is an awesome dude. He's the best, he's the best. And I am just very, very thankful. Now, not to say that he doesn't have, his bad parts or, and it's been this wonderful journey all throughout. It hasn't. It was a struggle. But I think where we are today is just a testament of us saying, yeah, divorce is off the table. We're not doing that. So if divorce is off the table and we have to be together, then let's figure out how we're going to make that work.
Shout out to Doug.
Yes, exactly.
All right.
For the man. Yes.
We all need a Doug, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Well, and what it reminds me of is when we have those basic needs of safety, security, being loved, to your point, Esther, what we can build off of that. So when you met this neighbor, you said you were helping her. You said you found your purpose. So how would you describe your purpose and how did that then turn into a business?
Sure. So in helping her, and I would get off work at 4:30 in the afternoon and come home. My husband, of course, would be at work because he was a chef, and so I would spend more time with her. And in doing so, I realized that every 4:30, as I was getting off work, I started getting excited, like, oh my gosh, I wonder what she's doing. I wonder, what mischief she's gotten herself into. I wonder what stories that she's going to be telling me. I got really excited. And I just realized at that point that, you know what? I need to be of service. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that would feel like, but I know that I needed to be of service to someone. And if I could get paid for that, that's even, it's a win-win for everyone. Yeah, so that's how that was. It's just finding that purpose. When you find the stuff that you do, and the saying, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life, kind of like that. It's like that, like my job. We have a lot of other people out there that are opening up and closing, and because they're just doing it for the money. And everyone is surprised that 20 years after the fact, I'm still here. And I'm like, because I still enjoy what I do. I still enjoy it. I still love to meet people. I still love it. So why not?
Yeah. Your passion is contagious, I got to tell you.
Thank you.
It really is contagious. and your love for the elderly and to be of service. So tell us a little bit about your business model and how it works, because you're pointing out that if someone gets into this and doesn't have that sense of purpose and then ignite passion, this may not be the right fit for them. So tell us about your business.
Yeah, so with what we do, Avendelle Assisted Living, and what we started with what we have now, it's just sort of morphed into what we have now. So I can just describe what we do now. We are residential setting, depending on the state, you can do 6 to 10 residents. And in North Carolina here, we have 6 residents, a maximum of 6 residents per home. Our model is a cross between assisted living, memory care, and some skilled nursing. So we care for residents till end of life. Before our homes, the model was you either go to the big facilities, and when your needs increase, you come to a nursing home. There wasn't an in between. And for a long time, when I opened up my home in 2005, all family care homes were licensed for ambulatory residents, meaning you can evacuate without assistance. But also, if you have dementia and the fire alarm goes off, and you're just looking around, not aware that it's an emergency, even though you can walk, you're considered non-ambulatory. So the residents that we are taking care of now, or we couldn't take care of back then, but those are those residents. But I wanted to, because my residents were getting older, and I wanted to know, what do we do with them? And I contacted the state and said, hey, what do we do? And of course, they took their lovely little time to get back to me. And but finally, because I was quite persistent, they said, well, you need to put in a sprinkler system. And I was like, oh, great. I'm just going to go to Lowe's and get one done. We're good, And they're like, no, a fire sprinkler system. Oh, okay. So I Googled and looked for different companies, and everyone's asking, hey, is it a residential building? Yeah. Is it do you need a residential system or a commercial system? I have no clue. That's why I'm calling you. But anyway, one little company came out, and they were like, we don't know what to do, but we'll figure it out. Hey, that's a start. Took about a year to get one done and get re-licensed as non-ambulatory. And because of that, it created a whole new industry where homes like this can be the bridge between bigger settings and nursing homes. So residents come and they stay with us in age until they pass away, and we can care for the different levels.
Wow. You said you wanted to make a difference. It sounds like you impacted an entire industry.
Yes, I did. I mean, a lot of my families, when I first opened up and I got relicensed, we have a lot of the families were saying, oh my gosh, I wish I would have known about you guys years ago. And I'm saying, well, this model didn't exist years ago. But there was such a demand, and a lot of people were coming to me wanting me to teach them how to run these homes and run them well. Because for me, I often say to myself, it's not just taking people's money, but I always want to give value for that money that I'm taking. So I go above and beyond to make sure the homes are pretty, to make sure we have 2 staff members during the day, where they can provide great care, even though the state requires only 1. You go above and beyond, and everybody just wanted to be part of it, and they wanted to know how to do it and do it well. And that's when we came up with the franchise model, to where we can teach people, because I cannot open up 100 homes, but I can teach others to where this model can be the norm and not the exception.
We're going to need more and more. One of the things I love about your model, Esther, is the intimacy of it, right? You got 6 residents, 2 full-time staff right there working with them. There's a level of intimacy rather than hundreds of residents and nurses and others running 100 different directions. There's a relationship that gets built, more like the relationship you had with your neighbor.
Mhm.
So I think
It's such a small setting, and because it's such a small setting, we know our residents, right? We know what they like, how they like things to be done, who likes coffee with creamer, who doesn't read the newspaper, who sleeps till 11 o'clock in the morning. We are small enough to be flexible to those needs. And, when I often tell my families, when you're looking at all of these different places everyone's going to be doing, the 3 meals a day, room and board, and all that stuff. But those are the headlines, right? Now we need to dig deep into the details as to providing the care the way it needs to be provided for each person, which is quite different. And, taking that into consideration, I think really is what has made us very successful.
Wow. Really nice.
no doubt.
So, yeah. So what's next? What's next for the direction and
For
the company? Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So in 2021, I had a business partner for the franchise part of the business. I bought him out, so I owned my business 100%, which is great. And I took a couple of years just to really make sure that we developed the infrastructure to support future growth. And so last year and this year is more where we have opened up the gates to say, hey, now we can go ahead and continue to sell franchises, knowing that we are able to provide what we say we were going to provide. And we have, several different, in several different states. We have franchisees that have signed up that are in different stages of development. And we are looking to take this nationwide because, again, this model works and it should be the norm and not the exception. And of course, it's going to take, a long time, not a long time, I hope not, but of course, it's going to take time to educate the public on, changing the paradigm, changing the way of thinking, educating them to understand what this model is and the advantages of it. And once they get it, they get it. And once they get it, it's like you just don't go back. So, I have families that I took care of, like dad, like 10 years ago, they're contacting me, well, mom's ready now, or, oh, my next door neighbor, or, I really don't use a lot of referral partners because I've built those relationships with my families, because we go out to lunch, and even though their loved ones have passed on.
Wow. Beautiful.
A logistical question, Esther, I didn't tell you before the show, but my son's a maintenance guy, and he manages about a dozen homes, residential homes for those that are mentally and physically disabled, not elderly, but they're, and the joy when I see him and he talks about these residents and that whole process. And I think the elderly need it even more so because these are their golden years, right? Just a quick logistical question.
Sure.
The homes, Esther, does the franchisee own those, or does someone else own them and they manage the homes, or how does that work?
So there are different models. So one, you could own the home and run the business. Two, we have investors that would buy the homes and retrofit them, and then we bring in the franchisees, and the franchisee, that's their business and they're renting a home. Or three, it's a partnership between the investor that bought the home and the franchisee that is running the home, to where, it's I'll put up the money, you run the home, we share profits, so to speak. So there are different models for different people, and it just depends on where you land on that.
Perfect.
Nice.
Perfect. I have an off the wall question
Sure.
for you. Um, when you think about your legacy and you think about maybe some advice that you have given, will continue to give, and will live long past you, what is that legacy that you would like to leave, or the advice you would like to leave people with?
Yeah. The one quick advice that it's my go-to for everything, really is, it's okay to not be okay. And that's okay too. Us and especially us as women, we want to be the best mothers, the best daughters, the best everything. And we beat ourselves up when we don't feel like we have accomplished what we had set out to. And sometimes it takes, 20 different routes to get to where you need to be. And you need to know, okay, I'm doing the best that I can. And sometimes it's not good enough, but that's all I can give. And it's okay to just not be okay. Pat yourself on the back, give yourself a break. This is one life to live. It's okay. And I just think that we have to give ourselves permission to breathe and say,
It's okay.
I could have done this. But I didn't finish organizing my closet. I'll do it tomorrow. And that's okay. It's not the end of the world. Nobody died. That's how I see it.
So we have, it's okay to not be okay. And we have, we have to have passion for what we do. So looking at those two, and then taking into consideration, like the whole host of business skills and compassion and empathy, what do you think are some of the top skills that somebody has to have to be successful as a franchisee in your industry?
Okay. I think number one is you have to really maybe love what you do, want to make a difference. And I think that will really carry you when those tough times come, because they do come. And when they come, that will carry you that love for what I cannot abandon my residents. I need to do more for my residents. You would have that. So you need to love and and hopefully love what you do. So that's important. But I also think, there are three parts to this business that a lot of people are not aware of. And, you have the operations part, which is, running the homes, filling the beds, yada, yada, yada. And you've got the compliance part, which is making sure you stay in business because you're licensed. And the third part is the business part of it. And all of this, as much as we love what we do and we care for what we do, it's still a business and the numbers have to work. And all of those three things need to work simultaneously together with, for this business to work. And so you may have someone that has one skill but not the other two skills, or someone that has two but not the other one. So as a franchisor, we are here to assist our franchisees and help develop those skills so that they can then provide the care and expand the dream of Avendelle.
I think that's a really excellent point, Esther, because it doesn't take just, this is my purpose, this is my passion, this is something I'm going to love to do. There also has to be those other skills. It's still a business. It has to be run. There's still things, especially in type of business with the elderly, where we have to comply. And of course, as a franchisor, you are providing a lot of those systems and processes and support and education and knowledge so they can do it better. So passion alone goes a long way, but you also have to have the
So it's like a dream is just a dream without action, right? So passion is just passion without action. You got to do something with it, right? So
Yeah.
That's a great way to describe it. Passion.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to
Passion.
have the action with
You
it.
have, yeah. So
So,
I mean it's a great model. It's a great thing. I wish a lot of people would, you know, would just take their time to get educated about this model and just know the advantages. And it's so wonderful. I mean, when you see a resident coming from a big facility and they're saying, oh my gosh, she's so agitated and all of that stuff, and they come to our homes and they're so calm, and you know, and because there aren't this whole, you know, 100 people walking around and a whole lot of stimulation, it just provides a different model and a different kind of care.
I want to go on record.
Sure.
If my children listen to this, that should I get of that age where I need this kind of care, I am hoping and praying that there is an Avendelle right here in Rogers, Arkansas, because this is what I would want.
Yeah.
Esther, this is what I would want
Thank you.
my mother if she was alive. This is what I would want for myself, because it still it feels like a family. It feels like I'm still under a roof with others. I'm still part of something, and I can age gracefully, right? So I think what you're doing is incredible. And you're right, it's a paradigm shift, and it's going to take a bit for people to catch on. But once they do,
absolutely,
ooh, doggies, girl, that's gonna
it's gonna skyrocket. It's like you just will not want to go back. Why would you want to? You know, why would you want to go back to the norm when this is so much better? And you know, we just have to continue to educate people on what we do. So
yeah, this is the closest to the aging in place concept. Like if you can't be in your own home that you were in, this is the next best thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, speaking of passion, I just wanted to add this, right? I started from zero and here I am. And no matter how big I get, no matter how much quote unquote money I make or whatever it is, I am still very honored, you know, when you have families that place their loved ones at my home. It's such an honor, really, and I never take it for granted, because they could choose any other facility, but they chose mine. And that is really special. And if I can make sure that we provide excellent care, not that we are perfect all the time, but if we can provide excellent care for the resident while supporting the families, life is great. And it's the same concept with, you know, doing discovery days with the potential franchisees, right? I sit down and I think to myself, oh my gosh, here are all of these people coming from all over the country to come to meet me and hear me talk about the stuff that I started. Yeah.
It's special.
It is, you know, I never want to take it for granted. I never do. I never do. It is just amazing.
You're on purpose, girl. You are definitely on purpose. And I really appreciate how you've packaged this in such a way that others too in their local communities can provide this almost, you know, home feeling to others. You're on purpose, and others that are on a similar path will come to you. I also have a feeling that much of what Doug taught you in terms of financial responsibility, I have a feeling you're teaching that to your franchisees also. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I teach that not just to my franchisees, not just, you know, I mean, I'm on call for them all the time. You know, I want to make sure they're successful, because if they're successful, we're successful. but I teach that to pretty much anyone that would listen. I honestly, I do. Because I have this quick story I want to tell you guys. One of my staff, on and off, she worked for me for like 10 years. And so this last, maybe a couple of years ago, she said, Esther, I'm just tired of doing like caregiving work, like, CNA work. I want to go to school. I want to be able to provide for my family. And I was like, well, why don't you? Right. And she said, well, I said, well, what do you want to be? And she said, I want to be a nurse. I said, well, why don't you go to school? And she said, well, I'm old. I just have a kid. And, I'm like almost 40 years old. And this is just ridiculous. I can't, blah, 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 all that stuff. And I said, to her, I said, well, there are different nursing schools. And one of them was a private college that it has an accelerated program that you could graduate in like 18 months. And I said, well, why don't you go check them out? And she was like, oh my gosh, no, they are so expensive. So I was like, all right, well, in a good year, how much would you make as a, CNA? And she said something in the 40s. And I was like, okay. As a nurse, how much do you think you would make? 80 minimum. Oh, okay. How much would it take for you to get to to get to school? How much would that be? And she said about 45,000. And I said, listen, I pulled out my paper and we started writing it down. And I said, in 1 year, you would be able to pay up this $45,000 and you would have the rest of your life to enjoy the benefits of that. And I was the guest of honor at her graduation. Yay!
Oh, I
Very
love
nice.
that story.
So that is like my success story. That is so awesome. But again, I think about the whole Doug situation. How many people are like that really want to do something? They have the potential of doing something, but they're so afraid of taking that step. Whereas if there's someone that could break it down for them in a way that really makes sense, because she said to me, Esther, I never thought about it that way. And I was like, I'm happy that I'm here to teach you that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing.
You're changing lives. You're changing lives. And you will continue, and then those will continue.
Absolutely. In fact, at her graduation, her younger sister said she's going to go to nursing school.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, yeah. So that's awesome. That
It
is awesome.
Awesome. It is awesome. Esther, I'm sorry, go ahead, Trace.
I want to know how people can reach her, because
yes,
people are going to want to hear more. They're going to want to talk to you, inquire about these opportunities. How can people reach you?
Sure. So I'll give my direct phone number because everyone has it and everyone knows it. It's 919-278-8120. And my email is Esther, ESTHER .Cromwell, CROMWELL at Avendelle, AVENDELLE.com. You can reach me, you can go visit our website, www.avendelle.com. You can reach me, you can call me. If it has to do with assisted living, great. If it doesn't, you just need someone to be your sidekick, someone to, be your champion, someone that's going to push you to get from point A to point B. I am your girl.
I believe that. Absolutely. I believe that. Esther, we want to thank you for sharing your personal story and the story of Avendelle. I'm going to see I have no doubt, we're going to see big things out of you. No doubt. As more and more people know this is available and they can be part of paradigm shift for elder care. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. I really truly appreciate this opportunity and to talk about Avendelle, talk about myself, talk about my wonderful and amazing husband, Douglas. But I just
want a Doug.
I know everyone wants to. And by the way, he is a registered nurse now, so I get to be taken care of, and I get wonderful meals.
Beautiful. You deserve it all.
And Tracy,
Yeah,
I'll
so
punt it over to you for final words.
I'm going to catch that ball because, as we were talking, like I was thinking to myself, Esther, you are a living example of passion with action. But I think there's also something else that is going on behind the scenes that we didn't touch on, which is that you seem to have this really amazing skill and knack of being able to decipher the most important information from the less important. And that's what it seems that you've learned, you absorb it, you apply it, and then you teach it, right? And that's how you build what you've built. That's how you innovate. And that's how you just create what you create, never losing sight of that core message. So I just wanted to bring that out and bring that to awareness and just thank you for being who you are and for who you are to so many people.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And thank you guys for the opportunity.
Absolutely. And thank you to those listening in today to the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged. Make sure to comment, to like, to forward and share this interview with Esther. And we'll see you next week on another episode.